Hi, I'm David Henning, and I've been a financial industry professional since 2007. Now, prior to financial services, I was in the health club industry where I learned how to help people and get them to reach their goals. And I've taken that experience from the health club industry and I've applied it to financial services. Now, I am an incredibly blessed individual. I'm married to my wife, Cindy Henning. We've been married since 2005, and together we have 4 amazing children that we love more than anything in the world. Today, I want to take a little time and share with you my story of a man's legacy. Okay, and my journey with legacy started a little bit over 10 years ago with a good friend of mine named Hook, who was owner of a restaurant in downtown St. Petersburg. And I just want to share with you, he has impacted my life. He's an amazing individual. We became close friends very quickly. Matter of fact, when I was in the health club industry, Hook came into one of our clubs one day, and I got to help him out. And I found out what an amazing individual he was because he had an amazing spirit, an amazing smile, and he was just a great person. And what happened is we developed a very close friendship, and I used to go into his restaurant all the time for lunch, and he always made me feel at home. And we had amazing food, and he would never let me order off the menu. He would always have me go sit down at our table, and we would have the most amazing conversations. And that relationship helped form a lot of who I am today. And we continued that friendship even after I got out of the health club industry. So I want to share with you why I feel I'm so blessed and why, when adversity strikes you, you have to realize adversity is not something that happens to you, but for you. So I've lived my life going by the 5 F's. So the 5 F's are faith, family, finances, fitness, and fun. Faith has been a huge part of my life, and it's because of my belief that I've been able to accomplish so many things. So when you have faith in things, you can go through it and accomplish it without having to worry, okay? Family is also something huge for me. My family is amazing. I was raised by 2 amazing parents. My mom and dad took tremendous care of us. I have an incredible sister. We have a great relationship. I have an amazing nephew. And then obviously my own wife, Cindy, and our 4 kids, Luke, Malachi, Cameron, and Alexa. They've meant the world to me. And fortunately, my career has transitioned into the world of finance, okay? And I get to help people with money, and I get to help people take care of one of the biggest issues that most people have. The number one reason for divorce is usually financial stress in the household. So I like to sit down with families and help them get that on track so they don't get divorced and they can have a nice, happy marriage. The next thing is fitness. I used to work in the fitness industry, and one of my favorite things was to help people achieve their fitness goals, right? People need to live healthier. It's so apparent right now, even with COVID, that we need to improve our health and do so much better. And then obviously fun. Fun is an amazing thing. It's what keeps us alive. It keeps us young, keeps us going. But occasionally, things happen to us. And like I mentioned earlier, adversity happens for you, not to you. Okay? So my life changed dramatically in July 25th, 2020. I had a cardiac arrest right in the middle of a COVID pandemic while I was on vacation in Texas. I wasn't even home, wasn't comfortable. We had gone to go visit my parents for the summer in Wiley, Texas. Right outside of Dallas, amazing little town. Whenever we get to go to this amazing little breakfast place called Countryside Cafe. And there's a woman there who serves us every single time, and we call her Granny. She's affectionately known as Granny because she has this outgoing personality. She takes great care of her customers. So we were sitting there having our breakfast. My son loves to go because they have these cinnamon pancakes. Okay, and he always gets the cinnamon pancakes. So we went that morning, we enjoyed our breakfast, we had our family time, and as we were finishing breakfast, my wife says, hey, you know what, can we go downtown and go shopping for a little bit? So we stopped at downtown Wiley. And we were walking through the shops, everything was normal. And we finished our shopping, we drove a couple miles down the road to my parents' house. And the last thing I remember is getting out of the car And so I get out of the car, everything's normal, and I don't remember anything after getting out of the car, but we walked into my parents' house, and I got about 15, 20 feet into the hallway. My wife had walked in before me. She had gone left into the bathroom. My kids had already gone into the house, and I just collapsed. I went face first right into the tile floor. My daughter was right there, and she witnessed it, and she started screaming for my wife. So my wife comes running out to see what's going on. Here I am on the floor, passed out. And she yells to my dad, "Call 911." Now, I am the luckiest guy in the world. And it's kind of funny talking about being the luckiest guy in the world when you just collapsed from a cardiac arrest. But let me share with you. My amazing wife, Cindy, okay, is a cardiac nurse. And so as a cardiac nurse, her instincts went into action right away. She yelled to my father, "Hey, call 911, get the paramedics out here." She yelled to my oldest son, Malachi. She says, "Malachi, go outside, see if you can find somebody that can help us out." And then she started to perform, CPR on me right on the spot because there was no heart rate or no heartbeat and no breathing. So my son runs outside, comes back in with these two guys that were doing landscaping across the street. And my wife looks at the one guy, Chris, and she goes, "Do you know what to do?" He goes, "Listen," he goes, "I'm just here helping today for landscaping for my son, but I actually work in the hospital, so I know CPR." So Chris jumps right in, starts performing CPR with my wife. My wife is breathing for me. Chris is giving me chest compressions. But if you've ever done CPR before, you know it's not easy to maintain that. You get very tired. And so Chris started to get tired from doing the chest compressions. My wife looks at my 14-year-old son, says, "Malachi, you need to jump in here and do chest compressions," and taught him CPR on the spot. And so here he is, my 14-year-old, and I'm so proud of this kid, doing CPR and staying cool and calm and helping, keep me alive till the paramedics get there. And next thing you know, the paramedics show up. And they see my wife, and if anybody knows my wife, you guys know she loves to take charge and be in control and do all these things. But they had to kind of separate her a little bit because she was trying to tell them what to do, and I was slowing them down a little bit. So next thing you know, the one guy is talking to my wife, and then she turns around and looks, and I'm gone. They had me in the ambulance, and they were taking me away. And they got my heartbeat back, and they got my breathing back while I was in the ambulance. And so I go to the hospital, and remember, this is during COVID. And she was not allowed in the hospital at the time. She's in the emergency room parking lot talking to the doctor on the phone. And he's saying, "Listen, we're probably going to have to take your husband in for open heart surgery tomorrow. We're going to prep him today." And next thing you know, he tells my wife, he goes, "Hold on, I got to go. He just coded again." Okay? Which just means I had another cardiac arrest. My heart stopped. My breathing stopped. And she's panicking in the parking lot, and she's freaking out, and she wouldn't let the doctor off the phone. He goes, "Listen, we're going to rush him up to surgery right now," where they were going to perform emergency surgery, and they started to do some stents and some other things because they couldn't do the open heart surgery without prepping me. So my wife is in the car panicking, and here's what she was thinking. In her mind, all these questions are going through her head. She's like, is he going to die? What's happening right now? Because she couldn't see what was going on. And she was thinking to herself, is this a dream or is this real? Is this really happening right now? She had to ask herself, what would happen if he passes away? So what if he dies? Am I going to be a widow at 47 years old? And it's like she started to think about my children. What would their life be without their father? Because again, remember, we have an amazing relationship. My kids are everything in the world to me, and we're really close. Who is going to take over the business that we have? Would she have to learn to do all the things that I do? And who was going to help her? I had always taken care of all the finances and the bills, and she's like, well, who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to take care of all that stuff? Where are all those things? And even though I'm in the financial services industry, she had to think about things like, is our life insurance intact? The wills, is everything prepared? But again, I am so amazingly blessed because here we are in another city, and we don't have our regular doctors there. We don't have our home there. We're staying with my parents, but everything worked out for the best. We were just miles away from one of the best hospitals in the country, and some amazing doctors who had to do an experimental procedure, because it was such an unusual situation and it was so rushed. But I'm going to tell you, I'm here today. And the thing that's so amazing is my faith helped us carry through. And it's all God's plan. I've actually been able to go back and visit with all the paramedics and all the people that were a part of saving my life. And there was such an outpouring of support from people. It was amazing. So let me talk to you about what happened to me in the hospital. In the hospital, I was woken up. So I went to the ER. I coded again. They took me up for emergency surgery. They had to induce a coma because they had to put me on a ventilator and all these other things to keep me going. And so I was in a coma for a week. Next thing I remember, the last thing was getting out of the car. Here I am in the hospital, and I'm looking up, and there's doctors right in my face. And the doctor is now waking me up, and he goes, "David, do you know where you are?" And I'm like, No, doc, I have no idea where I am. He's like, "You're in the hospital, you suffered a cardiac arrest, we had to do surgery, and here you are." And imagine being out unconscious for a week. Imagine how disoriented you are at the time. And again, in the middle of the COVID pandemic, Cindy couldn't be in the room with me to share with me what had happened and what was going on. But the doctors were smart enough that after they made sure that I had all my cognitive abilities, they said, "Okay, what's your name? What's your date of birth?" Asked me all these questions just to make sure I still had brain function. And again, man, it was amazing because my wife's instincts went into action and she performed CPR so fast that I did not lose any brain function. And it was like such a blessing to know that, I'm married to a cardiac nurse. There was a guy right outside the house who knew how to do CPR that could help. Paramedics were right down the road, got to the house pretty fast. All these things fell into place to make sure that I was okay. And so I'm sitting there in the room, and they were smart enough that they had an iPad and my phone right next to me. And they let me FaceTime with Cindy, on my phone immediately after they woke me up. And she caught me up a little bit on what had happened and everything that was going on. And, she kind of just started to cry a little bit because she felt relieved that I was actually awake. And after I got off the phone with Cindy, I had an opportunity to scroll through my phone. And I'm looking at my phone, and there's hundreds, if not thousands of messages that I was getting from people. And the doctor came back into my room a couple days later, and he said, "David," he goes, "do you want to get some help?" I was like, "Help? What do you mean help?" "Well, would you like to see a counselor?" And I said, "Doc, why do I need to see a counselor?" He goes, "Well, most people that have been through a traumatic event, just like you went through, are very depressed. Some are even suicidal." And I looked at that doc straight in the face, and I said, "Doc, I'm blessed." He's like, "What do you mean you're blessed?" I said, "Let me show you something." And I showed him all the messages on my phone. Social media messages from people that just knew me from social media. Friends, family, co-workers. They had actually started a prayer chain worldwide praying for my recovery. And for those of you, man, I'm telling you, the power of prayer is amazing. And this lifted my spirits to know that so many people cared about me and wanted me to do well. So all I knew is I was going to get better because there's purpose in my life. And I had to go help a lot of people because in the health club industry, I loved helping people with their fitness goals. In the financial industry, I love helping people with their financial goals and getting them to where they wanted to be. So I knew I had purpose. There was things that I had to do. And I had a renewed energy. Even though I was in the hospital, I was struggling with my health. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't do a lot of the things that I normally did. I did everything I could to get out of that hospital. They told me I was going to be in the ICU for another week. I got out in 3 days. I was supposed to be in a normal hospital floor for 2 weeks after that. I got out in 4 days after that. And then they sent me to rehab, and I was supposed to be in rehab for 3 weeks, and I got out in less than a week. They had trouble keeping me and the rehab because I knew I had a purpose and a thing I had to do. So this takes me back to what I was talking about with legacy. You know, a little bit over 10 years ago when I met Hook helped shape my life in a lot of ways. He told me how to treat people, how to make them feel special, and do all of those things. So I continued my relationship with Hook even after I left the health club industry. We continued to do our lunches and have amazing conversations and talk and do so much. Well, one day I went in to go visit Hook for lunch. And Hook looked amazing because over the years he had gained a little bit of weight. And you know, he was living a comfortable life, eating amazing food. He had an amazing family himself. So I go into the restaurant, have lunch with Hook. I'm like, Hook, you look amazing. What are you doing? He goes, you know, we have another child on the way. We have our daughter now. I got so much to live for and so much I have to do. He goes, I want to make sure I'm healthy for all of them. And I said, dude, whatever you're doing, keep it up. He's like, yeah, I went back. I'm doing the Muay Thai and I'm staying in shape. So I congratulated him. We had our lunch. I left. I come back a couple weeks later for our lunch and I look at Hook and he looked kind of yellow, kind of jaundiced. And I said, Hook, what's going on? You don't look so hot. He goes, yeah, I caught some sort of bug or something over the weekend. I don't feel good. I said, you need to go to the hospital right away. Hook went to the hospital and he never made it out. It turns out that Hook had organ failures and didn't survive that weekend. And that hit me really hard. It was the first time I had really lost anybody like super close to me. And my wife and I, we went to his funeral service. And at his funeral service, this funeral home was packed to the walls. I mean, there was no more room for anybody else to get in. And as a matter of fact, there was a line outside wrapped around the block of people waiting to get in and pay their services to Hook. And I just thought to myself, I said, you know, he was an amazing individual for me. He did so much for me and my family. I said, but it wasn't just me that he had an impact on. It was everybody that came in contact with him. And I said, that is an amazing legacy. And at that time, it made me think, it's like, if I passed away tomorrow, what is my legacy going to be? And I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, I have to be a person who leaves a legacy. I want to help so many people. I want to be respected, and I want to be remembered for what I did to other people or for other people. So I started my journey with legacy. And I got into financial services, and I started to help a lot of people. And I'm like, again, why did I survive? What's my purpose? How do I help people? Well, this whole thing that happened to me with a heart attack was, my faith kicking me into gear, saying, David, you have a purpose, okay? So with every adversity, like I said, is a blessing on the other side, if and only if you look for it. So here I was in the hospital, my health is horrible, I have to do something, right? So what is the message? What am I trying to be told that I need to do? And I'm like, I gotta go out and help everybody, all these people. So I searched for the blessing. And I promised myself I was gonna go out and make an impact. I was gonna go out and help all those families that were gonna have to go through what we just went through. All those questions that went through my wife's head, we're gonna help people answer all those things. We're gonna make sure that families are taken care of and everything is put in place so that they don't have to have those questions. So again, every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit if and only if you look for it. So here's what I'm gonna ask everybody out there right now. What is your legacy? What's your purpose? What are you gonna achieve? And I'm gonna tell you, it's very simple to start to work on this. A good friend of mine wrote a book, and he says, you have to start with the end and work your way backwards, okay? So it's time for you guys to start writing your own book. What do you want to be remembered for? How do you want people to look at you? And that's your final chapter. Now, what you need to do is go back from today, your starting chapter, and start to design that life. Start doing the activities, start doing the actions to lead up to how you will be remembered. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to share that with you. It's been amazing. And remember, adversity happens for you, not to you. It will change your entire outlook.